These tests are designed to show admission officers of who you are, what you'll bring to their campus, and what you're going to do in their campus.
What we should do is not introduce a new test, but we should fill the loopholes in the national examination, the KCSE. We should kick out the irresponsible leaders of the offices of the NEC.
Welcome to the Great Debaters Contest, Connect Edition. I am Mariam Bishar.
And I am Austin Yumbok. We're going to talk about Oreng High School and
Kapsabet.
The motion was standard entrance examinations should be administered by universities to high school graduates. Let's talk about Oreng's argument, which was emphasizing that these standard entrance examinations would actually help these students self-examine themselves, self-evaluate themselves, and understand more about themselves and their choices based on their careers. Claire?
I think everyone who goes to university is at least 17 or 18 years. I don't see what one paper will do to help you examine yourself, cover yourself, and understand yourself.
You're really not for this?
No words left.
Like a judge on the X-Files. It's a no from me.
It's a no for you. Zap! Okay. The opposer's argument was based on the fact that it's going to be an economic burden for the universities to actually administer these tests, and that actually translates to the taxpayers. So basically, we're just adding more insults to injury to an ailing economy. What do you think, Edward?
Well, they're right. In fact, the funny thing is that this suggestion is basically a mechanism to correct an already defective examination system. I mean, there's been so much cheating in the KCSE exams that you feel the need to add another test for people entering university to make sure they didn't enter unfairly. What if they cheat on that one too?
Exactly.
That's just 1.2 billion going to waste. There's just no need for it.
He quoted it.
Here's my question, and I don't know if it was made clear by the debaters. If we have these standard entrance exams, does that mean we're scrapping KCSE? Because it would become redundant to do an exam on finishing high school. Then that one is just, to put on your wall, and then do another one as you're entering university.
Perhaps if it was an interviewing exam of some sorts, then it would make sense. But a standard exam to give to students again after they've already passed the other exam is pretty pointless.
Very well. Ron?
To be honest with you, when I finished KCSE, I was happy. You're telling me I'm going to wait for 1 year reading to do another test to enter uni. Come on. It's too tough.
You don't want that business, don't you?
That.
Well, if we have to do the standardized test, then let's scrape KCSE off. Let's use our years in high school as an evaluation of where we are at as per our academic ability. And we do a standardized test, not compulsorily, but if you want probably to get into School of Engineering, I do a standardized test in mathematics, physics, chemistry, so that they can know this is my ability in this particular subject, and this is what I can do. If I'm good enough, then I get in. If I'm not, then I try something else. That's my opinion.
Okay, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of the person who was thinking, you know what, let's have a standardized entrance test. And I know what they were saying. They were saying, I can't trust KCSE. Look at how much cheating we had last year, right? They were thinking, I'm lecturing first year students, and I don't think all of them have the merit to be in my classroom. That's why I need a standard entrance exam, right? So maybe it's a bad reaction, but to a real and actual problem, which is that our current system of education, and especially when it comes to examinations, is not credible at all. So how do we fix it? How do we fix our system so that by the time I leave high school and I get into a first year class, I have the merit and I don't have to struggle. I know I didn't get my A, by any backdoor means or Mwakenya or anything.
I think it bottles down to integrity. The system is failing because people in the system are trying to find loopholes to work around the system. The system worked very well in previous years, but since people have become wiser and apparently trickier, you can say that.
Or technology. Everybody blames technology.
But we can't really blame technology for the evils being perpetrated by the people.
Exactly.
So it's about integrity. What integrity are we teaching our students? Because even if you make it harder for them to cheat, it will not.
It'll make them better
Yeah, it
cheaters.
won't limit them, and it won't teach them that cheating is not the way out.
So wait, what about the pressures that lead people to cheat? Because I think that's a major factor. Everyone wants to score a good grade. That we forget, I'm here to get an education, not to get a grade. So how do we teach people again that it's about knowledge? You need to come out of this place an educated person, not just a person with a grade or of a certain caliber. How do we take that pressure off people so that we don't hear of suicides when people fail and such? No, don't.
It's
laugh.
never that.
Those
But
are
it is a main issue.
Okay, to be honest, you study for 18 years just to go and do one paper, which you could fail. The problem is with the exam itself. Some people don't trust themselves enough. Even though an individual has been performing well, it is possible you can fail this. And in our school, Moiforces, it happened a lot. So I believe the new system in which they examine you a number of times and then they accumulate the results is a better system. And people will be less encouraged to cheat with that system.
But personally, in terms of, I'm in the field of education, and I can honestly say that I believe in 844. I honestly believe in 844 as a system in itself. The main issue that I can say is, first, the exam orientation, the fact that we are so exam focused, the content itself that we're taught. At some moments, I feel like the stuff I'm learning in uni should be the stuff I should have been taught in high school, and the stuff I learned in high school should have been the one that is in uni, because the content was so much in high school, and yet it doesn't really reflect or allows me to, as in I can't mark a personal milestone by the fact that I studied it in high school. You understand? So what if a situation that we literally make KCSE or its equivalent optional? Yeah? Students can choose to do it, or they can choose not to do it. And from day one, once you join Form 1, once you're in high school, every achievement you make within the curriculum and your co-curricular activities, emphasis on the co-curricular activities, because we see there's some universities that excel in certain co-curricular activities. So if you excel in those similar co-curricular activities, it gives you an added entry, it gives you an added advantage, so that we actually accumulate a wholesome student, someone who can function well, understands that his grades are not for exam, his grades are literally for posterity, because that A you got in Form 1 is actually important in allowing you to get into uni. It's not just the A that you got in Form 4 during your KCSE or during the optional exam. You'll do the optional exam as an individual who feels like, I really don't want to go to uni, but I want there to be a certification that I'm educated to this point. So personally, that would be my proposal. Let's make high school more integrated, and let's make the entire 4 years influence where you go, not just one final year.
Another thing I think about our education system is we are kind of forced to do things. I remember from my experience, I had to do a humanity in school simply because the system says you cannot go on without a humanity. I hated geography, I hated history, I hated theory, and here I am, I have to do it, and I have to get a good grade out of it all. That's one thing. We are too focused on the exam. We're not focused on what is this education doing to me. So my proposal is this: let's make education fun. Allow me to do what makes me happy, and allow me to specialize in it, be great at it, and at the end of the day, I'll be able to create change with what I have.
True. I have two questions regarding that. One, when you're younger in your formative years, your interests change a lot. So what I may decide to specialize in Form 1 may have radically changed by the time I'm in Form 3. So how do I deal with that? And two, is 844 the problem, or is it just, does the whole system need overhauling, or is it just the emphasis on exams that we're talking about right now?
I think there's a bigger problem here that we're not seeing. The education system was created so that people can have an equal opportunity. The minority groups, the poor people, their hope is in education. And you can't make it compulsory. You can't say that this small kid will be allowed to take part in some sport or in some co-curricular activities that the parents cannot really afford to offer to the child. So we need to look at the majority of Kenyans who are not able to afford this education that is based on co-curricular activities, because it's offered mostly in high-rise schools. And make it affordable to them, make it available to them, and change their perspective, because anyone in the rural areas will still tell you today that you need to get a certificate, you need to go to high school, you need to do KCSE, you need to go to university, you need to read. That is the only way they know how to excel. So we need to consider them, and not just from where we are right now, this all makes sense. But to the grassroots people, this won't pass.
I should have as much of an option at being a basketballer as I do at being an actuary or studying actuarial science. I think that's the entire
That's very important.
I think that's the entire point. The thing that makes the education system so exam-oriented is because in a lot of ways, education reflects what the country wants, right? So sometimes I think schools and governments don't subsidize schools to focus on sports because they don't think there's a market for it. Sometimes I think there should be a market for it, and I think people who have talents should have those talents explored and expanded upon. But all the same, having a standard exam, I don't necessarily disagree with having a standard one. I disagree with the idea of having to take it necessarily at a particular time. If there are people in prison who take KCPE, there are people who work who probably never took KCSE and they get to take it. I think people should have the option of choosing when to do that exam more than anything. I still think a lot of people will take it, but at least you have the option of choosing it, so you can choose your own career path.
And it doesn't disqualify you from opportunities.
If you sit for these entrance exams, it will measure if you're well endowed in the public speaking skills. Then this will be an automatic yes. You can best suit to be a journalist.
We can consider the Kenya National Examination to provide credibility. The quality exams that they are supposed to give us as students should totally be of quality.
It's quite unfortunate, but our education system has become so exam-oriented that our schools are basically producing robots. People who lack creativity, people who can't come up with new ideas, people who lack innovation. And that is quite sad. 844 wasn't meant to be like that. I was recently watching a joke on XYZ on the progression of the 844 system from the 80s, is it? Yeah. And how it progressed, and how lack of government funding to public schools affected it negatively.
True.
And it's unfortunate. Kenyans, we lack creativity because of this system. If we can come up with a way so that we can examine without, we are producing people who are good at studying, professionals at studying, but when they enter the job market, they're not good at what they do. They're just good at studying and passing. And that's unfortunate.
So, you've said something very important. You want to say something? Okay, yeah. We've become robots. Yeah, we just churned out and we go into the job market without fitting into the needs. So the focus should be on education, right? On actually giving people the skills that they require. So do you feel like yes or no, do you feel that it's necessary to overhaul 844 as a whole? Just get rid of the entire system and start afresh with when we focus, so we can focus on education, on co-curricular activities, on life skills, on emotional development and all those things. So yeah, right through, yes or no? Do you feel that we have to just overturn 844 completely?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Claire?
Okay, I'll go with a yes, though.
I'll say no.
I vehemently decline.
That's so African. Yes or no? And he's like, I vehemently declare.
From my background, what I understand is the national goals as per education, really there's nothing stated about examinations. As per the commission in the late 60s. There's nothing that talks about...
Austin, man. You see, that's a problem already.
What?
Our point of reference is a commission set up in the 60s.
90s. Yes, but that's not the main. As in, that was like the standard for our national goals as to education. Although they have been worked on over time, because there was another one in the 90s, and then of late, I've not had any commission that sits down and discusses the needs of the students in regards to the 844 system. But in those primary goals, there's nothing about there's nothing about examinations. And the sad part is that once I can honestly, but this is more of a conspiracy theory, is that once the individuals who'd actually, they didn't do 844, but they were the ones who were in charge of absorbing individuals from 844 into the job system, felt that they had to have a way in which they could pick who's best and who's not. So they actually laid emphasis on the exams. Yeah? And I know we're talking about entrance to university, but now you'll notice it's very hard for you to get a job with just a bachelor degree. You're required to have a master's, you're required to have a PhD. At least now with the PhD, that's when you can at least make some money, or at least have your education work for you. Because that's the main goal. What you've learned should actually sustain you. But now you have to learn so much that you fail to practice, because all your main goal is to pass all those hurdles. But now once you're finished with the race, you don't know what to do. That's the issue. I really support, because, and the fact is not that 844 is the problem, it's the fact that we're emphasizing so much on the examination. We're not building the student at all.
Let me try to put it in a different perspective. There's a difference between being literate and being functionally literate.
Exactly.
Being literate is basically you can read, you can write, you've passed a couple of exams. Being functionally literate is you can actually apply them to the best of your ability. So it's like you can study how to take a cow to the river and make it drink water, or you can actually take a cow to the river and make it drink water. See, there's really a big difference between the study group. I don't think overhauling the system per se will help. One thing I've always been curious about is when back then, I think some people did a system where they did arts and crafts, home science, and all those other things in primary school and in high school too. I'd really like to know how those things impacted some, if not all of them today, especially the people who weren't as fortunate in transitioning from primary school to secondary school to university. I think it's important to have a skill. Of course, every interviewer is going to look for someone who's studied, because part of it is a show of perhaps their work ethic, perhaps how well they are at understanding theoretical concepts. But I think in the end, you have to be able to actually have a skill more than anything than papers.
Okay, the reason I wasn't so sure about my yes is this. 844 is initially set up with good intentions.
Exactly.
It was a good system, but over time it became eroded. Let's be honest.
It
became eroded.
I blame the teachers, the
You
content.
have a vested interest in this, Austin.
Clearly
we
he
can't take you
does.
seriously on this.
No,
We will
you
form
can't
a new
take me seriously,
system.
but not objectively. But
I think we will form a new system and we will enter a vicious cycle. It will start well, over time it will become eroded, and we'll be in this position again, debating about a new system. And
We'll be 80 and having the same discussion.
Exactly. Exactly.
Remember, we talked about it.
So, yeah, you're right. The problem could be the examinations, and that should be resolved. Otherwise, it will be a vicious cycle.
Well, I don't think Mariam is actually saying that we scrape off 844 and then we bring a whole new system. Like, here, you guys, it's a whole new system. No, what she's saying is, let's have other things considered. Let's have our co-curricular activities considered. Let's have the experience that he's talking about considered in our education system. Not scraping off 844, bringing in something having let everyone have an opportunity. Think about the kid who can create a vehicle at age 13 in the village.
True.
He's seated in class learning geography, mind you.
I know you hate geography.
Yeah,
Apologies to
yeah.
Mr. Shinina's teacher. It's
So,
not
yeah.
you, it's just her.
So that's her point. Her point is, let's have all these other things incorporated to it, and let's make learning fun. Let's not, I don't know, Yeah.
I feel what you're saying. Yeah, Claire.
Yeah, I agree with that. Learning stopped being fun a long time ago when I had to go for tuition in class 3.
What?
Yes.
You went for tuition in class 3?
Class 3.
Wow.
Exactly. Do you see kids
Wow.
like walking around and their
Oh,
hips
gosh.
high and
Yeah,
their
and
bag
the-
is almost like hitting the floor? Can I help
Jesus.
you carry your bag to school?
It doesn't-
Tuition in class 3?
Yes, that is how sad my life was with the 844.
I was there too, unfortunately.
Tuition in class 3? We should start an anonymous group, like, Tuitioneers Anonymous.
That's a drama. Who's ever been asked to go to school in home clothes so that they don't know you're
going to
yeah, you're
school.
going-
Oh
you're
my
going
God, that's
tuition.
ever happened?
Yes.
It happened.
Man,
I've been
you're making
snuck-
me feel sheltered.
Austin, I've been snuck out of school through a back door because there was an inspection going on by like the county people.
Wow.
That's how bad our system is. Yes.
Oh, that's why we were told not to tell our parents. I just thought, because they told the parents, don't pay, just come to school. And we just came. We thought it was,
Out of the kindness of their heart.
they just,
Community service.
wow.
Yes, we interrupted.
No,
Claire.
it's okay.
Yeah.
We all have experiences with 844 system that is not very pleasant. So that should take us back to the drawing board. Like, really, are this the memories that you want of education? Do you want to be crying about going for tuition, having to sneak out of school
We
because of
feel you, Claire.
the integrity eroded from the teachers because they snuck us out?
You'll never look at them the same. By
No,
the way.
you're like, my teacher, okay, not my teacher, but like the teacher finds ways to get around the government system. What to tell me that I can't do the same? My teacher taught me to get around the government system. So honestly, what are we doing here?
So to cap it off, if you are given a choice, between the British system that is usually common in most high-end schools and our Kenyan system, what would you pick?
British.
Definitely British.
British.
Kenyan.
Okay. British. I'm not wearing my patriotic armband today, but I love Kenya, but I'd pick the British system. I think we've had like a very, very insightful discussion.
True.
Yeah, and I hope that...
I hope the cabinet secretary is listening right
True
now.
that.
Please, this is very informative.
Yeah, and everyone is a change maker, so be sure to engage us online as well. I am Mariam Bishar. I'll leave you with a quote simply by Albert Einstein. He said, "I will not let school interfere with my education." It's always stuck with me. So it's bye from me.
Wholesome education.
Wow. Right.
God save us.
That's ominous.
I love to read, but I don't like to be made to read.
Wow.
If examination results are what you want, either make people study harder or just make the test easier.
Wow. I'd say no matter what, be yourself. Know yourself, because no exam and no degree will determine who you are. I am Austin Nyambok. This has been the Great Debaters Contest Connect Edition. Please stay tuned here every week.
Twitter at Great Debaters EA.